All right, everybody, we'll go ahead and get started. So we want to be respectful of your time. So we've got an hour here today with admissions professionals from a number of colleges and universities throughout the United States. Making sure that I didn't miss like a Canadian or Mexican comrade there. So thank you for joining us. This is College 101. The intent of tonight is to allow you to ask questions of our admissions representatives here. So we'll begin by having them introduce themselves, and then we'll open up the floor for questions. We'll take questions just by raising your hand, and I'll awkwardly point, or someone will come over and take your question from there. Sound good? Excellent. So I should also introduce myself. My name is Michelle Long. I oversee alumni relations at FIRST. So that's everything from the FIRST Scholarship Program, of which all of our representatives are partners, as well as other alumni engagement opportunities and initiatives. I will also be available afterward if anybody's got any specific questions for me. So with that, I'll turn it over here, and we'll go ahead and have our panelists introduce themselves.
Sure, thank you. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. First of all, thank you so much for being here tonight and keeping this room nice and warm, right? We feel so cozy. My name is Amparo Silva. I am the Director of Global Partnerships at Syracuse University. Syracuse is in upstate New York, approximately about 4.5 hours from New York City. With the kids call it Siberiacuse. It's a little cold in Syracuse. I've had the great pleasure of working for Syracuse for about 32 years, and if I may humbly say, I know a lot about admissions, but also about the college selection process. And what I can tell all of you, I'm not going to share much about Syracuse. You can see me tomorrow at the college fair and the day after. But what I can tell all of you parents and students is that there is a place for everyone. There's, I think these moments are just very uncomfortable for parents and students because you're looking at your future and thinking about what you're going to do. But we all end up doing whatever it is that we were meant to do, right? And you will have great opportunities. I may also mention that I am the proud aunt of a graduate of Syracuse who is an engineer, and he's working with Lockheed Martin in Liverpool, New York. And I'll be happy to answer whatever questions you have. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Crystal Cobb and I am from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. And we have campuses in both Daytona Beach, Florida and Prescott, Arizona. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Oh, I'm a senior assistant regional counselor. I don't think that's right. Something like that.
Hi, everybody. I'm a little bit different. I'm actually a faculty member. I'm an assistant dean in the College of Engineering. I'm at the University of Texas at Arlington. We're right smack in the middle of Dallas-Fort Worth. If you've ever gone to the airport there, you've been just directly north of our campus, and I can see the Cowboys Stadium out my window. So we're right in the middle of DFW. But we've been involved with First Tech Challenge for over a decade, and I've been involved with it, and I love to come recruiting you guys. So I'm here to represent specifically the College of Engineering. If you want to do something else, I guess I could talk about it, but I'll be there tomorrow.
Hi, everybody. My name is John Bird. I am an admissions counselor from the Illinois Institute of Technology, or Illinois Tech, or IIT, in Chicago, Illinois, so a little bit of a flight from here. We're a completely STEM-focused university. In addition to the admissions counselor position that I have, I am also our scholarship coordinator for FIRST Robotics students. So pretty much if you're thinking about FIRST Robotics or looking for scholarships, you're going to be talking a lot to me when it comes to Illinois Tech.
Hello, my name is Sarah Moore. I am an admissions counselor at Missouri University of Science and Technology. We have 15 different engineering majors. We offer bachelor's, master's, and PhD in most of them. Also very strong in computer science. We have 19 different design teams, and we're world champions this year with our Mars rover team.
I'm Paul Warrens from Milwaukee School of Engineering, MSOE. I'm glad to be here because they're getting 3 to 5 inches of snow back home right now. So, but I'm the affiliate director of Project Lead the Way at MSOE and director of STEM. And so we have some opportunities, not only in scholarship, but in some job opportunities for FIRST Robotics students that want to continue after they move on to college. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Hi, my name is Jessica Diaz. I am the Assistant Director of Admissions at Capital Technology University. Capital is actually just outside of Washington, D.C. in Laurel, Maryland, and we are a STEM-focused university.
Hello, my name is Scott. I'm from Kettering University in Michigan. We're happy to be here. We've been partnering with FIRST for about 20 years now in our scholarship program. So happy to be here again.
Oh, good evening. My name is Joy Walton. I am representing Florida Institute of Technology in Melbourne, Florida. A quick note about our school. We are absolutely a STEM university, though we also have some non-STEM programs. And our university was started by engineers from NASA.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Taryn Smith. I'm Associate Director of Admission from Rice University, which is right here in Houston, anywhere from 15 minutes to 2 hours away, depending on traffic.
Hi, my name is Leslie Keeler. I'm a regional admissions counselor with Lawrence Tech University in Southfield, Michigan, and we are mostly known for our engineering programs, and we do also have a brand new STEM center on campus.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Brisson. I'm Associate Director of Admission at Olin College of Engineering. We are located in Needham, Massachusetts, which is about 15 miles outside of Boston, where it is very cold as well and snowy, unfortunately. But we're a very small undergraduate institution, and we focus entirely on collaborative project-based education and engineering.
Great. Thank you so much for those introductions. And before we open things up to questions, I would be remiss if I didn't thank the sponsors of this event this evening, so the folks who have made this happen for us. So those folks are, oh gosh, I better get it right, ABB, Booz Allen Hamilton, Lockheed Martin, and 2 Sigma. So they'll each have booths in the Innovation Fair, so in addition to visiting our scholarship providers on Scholarship Row tomorrow, make sure to take a peek at our sponsors as well. So with that, let's go ahead and open it up for questions. So who's got questions for our panelists? No one. Excellent.
And I was just wondering, is there anything like that possible in more intellectual?
That's a great question. So before we let folks answer, did folks in the back of the rooms hear that? Do we want to repeat it? Okay. Kinda, sorta. Okay, so we'll get a mic from here on. So the question was, what sort of extracurriculars do you have at your institution that might attract students, like kids who get to go to school on like free full rides for sports? So any of our panelists want to take that? Oh, I paraphrased incorrectly.
What I said was...
Here.
What are the specific opportunities that people who do things like FIRST Robotics or other intellectual activities other than sports, even though sports are great and I advise doing them, what puts you ahead of the pack in terms of that, and what kind of scholarship opportunities can we see, or admission opportunities?
Anybody want to take that? Go ahead and pass that mic around.
I'm from Lawrence Tech, and I just wanted to let you know that we offer a full range of NAIA athletics, and this next year we'll be competing in football for the first time since 1932. So we're really excited about that, and we do offer athletic scholarships.
So,
I was just going to say, we do offer a $3,000 scholarship to students that are part of FIRST in addition to their academic scholarship there. And then we also have a FIRST Ambassadors program that we've implemented now. We work with a foundation in Milwaukee that funds students to go out and mentor teams around the Milwaukee area. And they pay you to do that, $10, $12 an hour and those things. So it's keeping that FIRST robotics piece going in your life, if that's what you so desire, but then awarding you for the hard work, I mean, that you're putting in to be here today and all year, over the years that you've been doing all this. So we do have opportunities there for you that way.
I think I understood your question maybe a little different. I think one of your concerns is, what are we looking for as universities in students who attend high school now? So you're in the perfect track, because we're looking for students who are accomplished not only academically, but also do other things, right? So leadership is important, extracurricular activities are important, And so it's important for you to also know that you will be rewarded because many universities are going to offer you scholarships based on academic merit. So the amounts may be different, the packages may be different from place to place, but you will have a lot of opportunities. And the other thing that I want to encourage you to do is to continue on this path because your career path is going to be amazing. So you are going to be much better off than a lot of athletes. Make sense?
I just wanted to echo that specifically, and as far as like, you know, specific scholarship amounts, because obviously you can look at, you know, the athlete side of things and all of that, and that's a whole different process on its own. I think I can speak for every university up here where there's scholarship opportunities that are available. For us here at Illinois Tech, if you apply by a certain application date, we'll consider you for a full tuition scholarship on top of that. So there's lots of different opportunities. I think the big thing is part of like the search process as far as everybody, because we're all looking at schools, or at least I'm assuming you guys are all looking at schools at this point, is to talk to, you know, us that are sitting up here, because we can tell you about specific opportunities that are based on your interests, what you might qualify for, what you might be considered. And the other thing that I like letting students know about, and this obviously varies a little bit from school to school, talk to your high school guidance counselor, because they might be aware of scholarship opportunities at a more local level. They might be know exactly the university based on your interest and what you might be thinking of. So I think the biggest thing, in addition to like searching those out and us sitting here and telling you about those opportunities, would be to not be afraid to ask questions like you're doing right now. And I think that's true of everybody here.
Yeah, I was just going to echo that and say, yes, I read it as a two-part question too, and you were looking to find out what are colleges looking for in a student, and also kind of what's the payoff for you, kind of essentially, right? And so at Olin College, every student who's admitted gets a half tuition merit scholarship. We don't have athletic scholarships, and it's going to vary from place to place. We're tiny. Every college thinks about their goals and they allocate their resources appropriately. And so as a result, we give everyone a half tuition merit scholarship. We don't give anybody a full ride and then somebody else nothing, because we are so confident that everybody's going to do a great job. We want to be investing in your future. And then in terms of what we're looking for, it's the same kind of thing. You know, we want students who have done well in school, but have also have other activities, and whether they are sports or student government or robotics. I mean, what is important to us is how you go about them, and your focus and dedication to them too. That's another piece.
Before we maybe go on to the next question, can we just see by a raise of hands who here is a junior? Sophomores? Freshmen? Any 12th graders who know where they're going to school? Excellent. Congratulations. And then educators. Great. Thank you.
One last note before we go on to the next question, indeed. For our university specifically, you mentioned your friends and colleagues who are getting full rides via sports. We do, our university, we really emphasize academics. We do have academic-based merit scholarships. We also have needs-based scholarships, and we do have a few few athletic scholarships as well. We're very project-oriented, and those are the things that we're looking for our students. We want students who are going to be successful. The students who are going to be successful are students who have worked hard and willing to work hard. We invest in our students, very hands-on opportunities, and again, it's mostly based on your merit. If you see that you're the type of student that is going to take on a lot of work and be hands-on, this is a great place to be. We reward you accordingly. We give several scholarships out to robotics students, students who are Boy Scout, Eagle Scouts, Girl Scouts who are Gold Leaf Girl Scouts, this type of a thing. We're looking for students who are going to be very successful, very well-rounded. So in your particular case specifically, you have the academics, you have the sports, you have the personality. These are the types of students that we definitely are looking for at Florida Institute of Technology.
Great. Thank you to all our panelists who answered that. And just so that everyone knows here, so with here at the First Championship, so anyone who attends our scholarship row with an innovation fair, definitely not limited to, but including all of our panelists here tonight, are first scholarship providers. So they all of these institutions make available scholarships specifically to first participants. So if you are unaware of what those scholarship offerings are, that's available on the First website at firstinspires.org/scholarships. So with that plug, let's see, what other questions do we have? That was a great question. Thank you. Awesome. Austin, if you want to. Austin's going to run with a mic, so everybody talk into the mic, and it only picks up your voice if you talk into it, so make sure to do that.
How much do standardized tests like affect college admissions, especially the AP tests and the SAT essay sections? Because like some of us aren't the best of testers, and we're also spending a lot of time here, so we don't have as much time to prepare for this.
I can say at Embry-Riddle, we're actually test optional, so you choose when you apply if you want to use your test scores or not. They can be helpful for scholarshiping and things like that. So I do, recommend not holding them back just because you don't feel like sending them. But some people aren't strong test takers, and you shouldn't be punished for that, in our opinion. We do like students that take AP classes because you're preparing better for the rigors of college, but it's not something that is going to keep you from being accepted if you're not taking them.
So my university, University of Texas at Arlington, we're an open enrollment school, so we're open to everybody. We actually, one of our claims to fame is that our students are 5th in the nation for the lowest debt when they come out of school, which is important in this day and age, right? We would like to have as little debt as we can. And so we have a lot of students who are focused on trying to get through school and get as little debt as possible. And so things like AP tests, IB tests, CLEP tests, dual credit courses, those do help you in terms of making your college go faster because you've already completed coursework that's necessary for your degree. Now, we all know there's some course where if you decide to go in computer science, which is my home department, there's certain ways we'll use your CS test, but if you happen to take the AP Spanish test and make a 5, it doesn't actually help you. It doesn't count towards the degree. So to address that part of it, those things can help you in your college career, particularly financially. It's a benefit to you. And if you're worried about not doing the greatest, know what your university will accept or not, and then you decide, do I want to risk this, $90 taking the AP test to maybe save, a full 3-hour course later on in college? In terms of not being good test takers, we know that that's the case as well, and we know that's true for a lot of students. So we don't look only at tests. We look at tests as a component along with your grades from high school. Again, like I said, mine's an open enrollment university, so we're looking to accept a lot of students. That's where we are. We have a large campus, and we're going to look at both grades and test scores because they sort of measure different things about you, but one's not going to be the only thing we look at.
Just 2 quick points that I want to make that's kind of more general about it. Number one, some schools, and obviously I can only speak for us, but some schools sitting here will do what's known as super scoring, which super score means that if you take the ACT or the SAT multiple times, we'll build the best score out of all the different subject tests that you take. One of the things that I like about it, and I say this as someone who reviews applications, I like seeing if students grow as far as test scores go. And again, if you have a bad test for whatever reason, and then you take it better a second time, we're not going to dock it against you. We're going to use the whole thing. So that's something to consider when talking to other universities. The other thing that I would say as part of the review process, I know I myself, and again, I can't speak for everyone up here, but a lot of schools, or at least us, will take into consideration everything a part of that. So yeah, we're going to look at your grades. Yeah, we'll look at your test scores, but we'll also take a look at what you're involved in outside of the classroom. If you're dedicating as much time as you are to robotics, that's something that we're going to take into consideration. Same if you're part of student government or things like that. If you've got a resume, upload that. We'll read your letters of recommendation. We'll read your essay. The more information you give us as part of your application, the more informed decision we can make with that.
We're a school that accepts a lot of AP and IB classes, CLEP tests as well. We have a brochure that shows you exactly what score you need to make on those tests and whether you'll get credit at our school. We do, particularly in the humanities and social sciences, give credit for 3s and 4s, for instance, on the AP test. So that makes it not as stressful for you maybe. And we also don't limit the number that you bring in. You will find out that there are universities that limit the number of AP courses you bring in. So, that's something you want to take into consideration too. We don't require that you take AP or IB classes prior to coming. It just, like mentioned previously, it's just to your advantage if you're trying to save time and money. I did also want to point out that both ACT and SAT have summer tests this year, so that maybe that's a good time to get in another test when it's not quite a stressful time for you, so something to just think about.
So in regards to my personal position, I've already maxed out my math classes for next year. Basically, I'm trying to determine whether to take a third year of a language or to take the aerospace class to get the CTE engineering pathway. Which do you recommend is the more beneficial to the eyes of colleges? Mechanical engineering.
The thing I would say to you for us at FIT, stay with your STEM. You want to stay on that course. The language is an asset, certainly, but you really want to stay in the STEM focus.
I'll add to that. It's going to be very particular to the type of school that you're applying as well. There are some schools that are going to require that you have, say, 3 or 4 years of a foreign language, and you might be missing out on that requirement. So you're going to want to look closely at the institutions that you're applying to determine if the classes that you're taking in high school are going to meet their entrance requirements. At Rice, for example, we require 2 years of the same foreign language. So for us, it really wouldn't make a difference either way. We would encourage you to pursue what was of most interest to you, but really take a look at the different institutions that you're applying to, because you don't want to be missing out on the high school curriculum requirements that are going to be necessary to get into those particular schools.
Yeah, I would just echo what the lady from Rice has just said. I think for our purposes, we don't have a specific number of years of foreign language that we require. So if you were to be interested in Olin, for example, you probably could go either way. It would be, as long as it's a rigorous course, that's really what we're looking for. And you've maxed out the math and the science, so, I think you could make either choice and probably for our purposes be in good shape.
I'm sorry, man.
All right, so I wanted to ask, how much does grades affect admission? And if your grades are not the best, right, they're not 4.0s, can you still get into good or decent colleges and succeed there?
Yeah, I think, where I would go with that is, from the grade standpoint and even the standardized test standpoint, the better both those are, the more scholarship. Typically, we all equate that to. But at the same time, if you have some of those struggles, it's having that discussion with your admissions rep, your counselor, and explaining that and what are the other things, so that's where, saying that you've been a part of FIRST for how many years, if it ends up being 4 years or 6 years or whatever it is, 12 years, if you started very young. That's where the extracurriculars from our discussion earlier, I think, really comes into play in this, is that if your grades aren't there, what are those other things you've been doing that prove that you're a worthy student?
Right, yeah, I would agree with that. I would say that you need to provide context. Okay, your grades maybe are not as good as they could be. Why is that? And I think that, again, it's going to be very dependent on the institution. We have a holistic admission process, so what that means is everything's important. Not one thing makes or breaks an application, generally speaking. However, grades are really important. And so, if you can show some improvement, if you're only a junior, you've got time to sort of move things forward. And that's impressive. People like to see that, for sure.
Yeah, and also just to kind of echo what he said is that we aren't scary people that you can't communicate with, so admissions counselors kind of appreciate when you can explain yourself and kind of make me see the picture better. So if I'm looking at you on a paper, I only see what that paper shows me. And your essay can do but so much. So if you want to contact us, we encourage you to reach out. We're not people that, you know, you can't talk to. It's actually much better if you create that relationship early. So let's say you submit your final transcript and you improved greatly. I know that you tried your, you know, you did what you needed to do and went above and beyond to do that.
The other thing that you need to consider is that, and that goes for grades, SATs, and also, you know, the types of decisions that you're making right now, right? You're really young. And there is a high possibility that you would end up doing exactly what you want to do right now, but there's a possibility you may end up doing something completely different. So what I would recommend is speaking to each university and finding out what is the path also to get to where you want to be, because you may not be able to start in a school of engineering in our case, but you may be able to start somewhere else, get all of the counseling, the tutoring, the support that you need, and get into the School of Engineering a little later. So there are ways of doing that. There are ways of applying to universities, not only to your first choice, but also to your second, to your third choice, giving us an option to get you into something else. There's many paths to what we're going to do. So it's not defined right now, it's not defined by what you're doing right now. There are things you can do to improve all that and to have other opportunities.
Sweet.
Oh, sorry, it's the guy behind you. I'll hit you next.
Thank you. All right, so I have a question addressing the panel as a whole, but I would particularly like a response from the FIT representative as for how state residency affects priority for admission.
Well,
At FIT, we
we'll
have...
let you start.
Thank you. Excuse me. I apologize. Okay. At FIT, we have a flat rate tuition. We don't have in and out of state tuition, so everyone pays the same price. So we don't have a quota. We don't have a number to meet per se. It's open to everyone. Again, we're just looking for the best students possible. Okay, the students who are going to be most successful here.
So I'll give a different point of view. We're a state public university, University of Texas at Arlington. We do have in-state and out-of-state tuition. And we have international tuition is actually the same as out-of-state tuition. At our university, though, there is a possibility if you get a scholarship, then you can also be offered in-state tuition. Particularly for undergraduates, they do that if you're offered one of our larger scholarships. They'll offer you in-state tuition along with that, which for an out-of-state or international student is a very substantial difference in price. They are not able to do it for every single student, but that's one possibility. And since we're a public university, we're fairly reasonable cost. We're not cheap, but we're not hugely expensive.
There are some special programs within the states of Arizona and Florida for Embry-Riddle, but from an admission standpoint, I, for example, only work with students in my region. So I work with students in New England and Pennsylvania and California and Washington, and so I'm not comparing them to students in Florida or Arizona at all. I'm only looking for, you know, students that are in the area that I work within, and I think a lot of us kind of do that. We focus on our own states.
So one thing that is really important to colleges and universities is diversity in general, right? So geographic diversity, it's key to a lot of institutions. We are a private school in central upstate New York, so the tuition is the same for everyone. There's no difference in cost. But we really want to recruit students from other states, from other countries. We want that type of diversity. So students who come from other states may have, in a way, not preferential, but they will be, they will have an easier time getting in than other students, I would think.
All right, so my question has two loosely connected parts. A, how much importance is placed on community service and like the societal impact that comes out of it? And what specifically are you looking for in extracurricular activities?
Again, this is one of those situations where it's going to vary a little bit from university to university, but I think in a more general sense. As far as, you know, community service goes, obviously it's an important part of it, especially for some scholarships. In our case, our full tuition. That's one of 3 big factors that we factor in at the university. But I think as a whole, when it comes to activities, some students bounce around from a lot of different activities and they do 10 things, but they only do it for 1 year, 2 years. For me personally, I like to see a lot of dedication to one activity, right? So if you're doing robotics, if you've been doing that for 3 or 4 years, that's awesome. If you've been involved, you know, in other activities outside of this for 3 or 4 years, or you've been doing it like since you got there and it's something that you're passionate about, if you have a leadership position in those things, that's usually an indicator that even if you haven't been there for a while, you have that drive and that will to succeed from there. So I'm not necessarily a fan of like the long list of like, oh, I've been in all these different things and I've bounced around from there. I like to see, you know, being involved in a lot of, maybe not necessarily a lot of different stuff, but being consistently involved in, you know, usually at least 3 to 5 different things. Because that's usually what students, at least what I did when I was in school and what I've seen from students at our university, that's usually what they're involved in when they're here as well.
So I'll add to that you know, it is great to see a robust list of extracurriculars, but that community involvement for us is very important because students at Rice, 80% of them will be involved in some type of community service activity before they graduate from our institution. And so we'd like to see that that's something that you're already interested in coming out of high school and something that you're going to be interested in continuing with. And so you know, we certainly like to see it. And as far as the impact that you mentioned, you know, that can certainly vary. If you're having an impact within your school or within your local community, and certainly we've seen applicants who have had an impact even globally. But what is that impact? That's going to be really important to articulate when you're talking about the community service that you've completed.
And I'm going to speak from a different direction. Our school's 85% STEM focused. We look solely at your cumulative grade point average at the end of your junior year and your test score for admission to our university and for our merit-based scholarships. Once you're accepted, then we look at your activities for additional scholarship money. So just like we've mentioned about almost everything here, every school is going to have a little bit different look at things. And we approach it that way because we know grades and test scores are going to indicate whether a student's going to be successful at our school, and we want to have students come and graduate. So we know that's your goal as well. And but there's such a variety, and it's kind of what you're looking for and what your priorities are when you're approaching your college search.
Great, and I know everybody in here as part of their first team is doing community service already. You're doing it for awards, you're doing all of that. So even when you're getting to that point and thinking about, do you have something to talk about? Think to all the other parts of your first participation. You'll find a lot of the answers to what many of these colleges and universities are looking for in what you're already doing here. So, all right, got a question here.
Speaking specifically about computer science, what activities or like accomplishments, like outside of robotics, like let's say you make your own startup or small startup, or like you enter a coding competition, like what other accomplishments are like really valued in admissions?
I think the way to see what you're inquiring about is see it in a way that is really global, right? In a way that is really much more diverse, if I would say that. Colleges and universities, unless they're specific to what you mentioned, which is they look at your grades and SATs and so forth, are looking for truly well-rounded students, right? So whatever you've done, whatever it is, whether it's related to STEM, whether it's related to science, whether it's related to competitions or whatever, if it's outside of your community, etc., everything is going to be important. When we read your application, and in our case, we read about 35,000 applications a year, so that's a lot. But we read every single page in your file. So we want to know everything you've done. So everything you feel is important to list on that application, please go ahead and list on the application. Everything is going to be significant.
So in our computer science department and actually at Prescott with its own major. We do have cybersecurity, so that's something that's definitely growing on our campus for Embry-Riddle. And in addition to our first scholarships, we actually have a Cyber Patriot Scholarship. So if anybody is in here doing both, I know that's a whole lot of work, but you can apply to both of those scholarships with us. They're definitely things that are growing. We have a lot of hackathons and things like that. So ethical hacking, not bad stuff, but it's definitely something that's growing in opportunities.
And at Capital, echoing the same thing she said, we have similar opportunities. So for us, if you do something like Project Lead the Way, or if you've taken a course and sat for a cert during your high school years, and we see that reflected on your transcript, whether it be like A+ or Security+, we actually give you college credit for that. So that typically translates as a college course at our school. And also we have a scholarship for those interested in cybersecurity that have been part of Cyber Patriots, along with FIRST. You know, we for instance, when we're reading applications, we find ways to give you money because we're really not that stingy with it. So if I'm reading your application, I'm going to look and ask you to explain certain things to see if it qualifies for scholarship money. So I encourage you to explore all those options. And computer science is one of our most popular majors at Capital.
As far as like specific activities, I mean, we've said it a lot, and I feel like a lot of us have said up here, everything counts when going towards all of that. And in some cases, it can make the difference between, you know, an acceptance and a non-acceptance from there. I'll give you an example just of a student that I've worked with this year. Borderline test scores for what we look at here. GPA probably not what he was looking at, but he did all sorts. He like knew something like 4 different types of programming languages and had 2 patents to his name as far as technology and things like that goes. That's the difference between getting into the program and not sometimes. So it's not just the grades that come into it. I think the more experience that you have specifically in the major, like if you know that you want to go into computer science, or if you know that you want to go into engineering or anything like that, if you have experience on there that's not necessarily reflected in like the traditional grades or anything like that, you got to let us know about it, because it does make the difference in some cases.
So if you've had some kind of hardship in your life, or possibly a medical condition that affected your grades, is the essay the best way to get that information to the admissions counselor, and how do you consider that? What are the types of things that you consider?
I would say it's definitely something that we take into consideration. You know, things happen, you know. Like sometimes you get, you know, whatever happens, there's a death in the family, you're hospitalized for a time being, and then sometimes you say, you know, this is why it happened and this is why it's going to look a little not as much as it should be, and it's not reflective of the student. As far as where to put that in the application, we only use the Common App at Illinois Tech, so I can only speak to the Common App, and I'm sure other universities can tell you there. There's a section at the end of the Common App where it's essentially like additional information. That's usually where I recommend students to talk about, you know, whatever struggles, or help contextualize that. And it's not just as far as like medical issues or things like that. It's the grades, it's the test scores, it's the everything like that there. So there is places on the application where you'd put it. For the Common App, that's my recommendation for it. But it's absolutely something that, as long as it's talked about, we'll take it into consideration and try to make a more informed decision that way.
So one of the things that we haven't talked about here at all is that some of you may have an opportunity to have an interview. Whether it's a personal interview or a Skype interview or a phone interview, we will grant you scholarship, interviews at Syracuse. And there are many other institutions that would as well. So that may also be an opportunity to share with that person who's interviewing you whatever the situation was. But I also recommend, we're on the Common App, to put it, use your essay for something that is more perhaps fun or more revealing about the student, and then use that portion that says any extra information to add that information to the application.
Another place that it might come in handy is when you have reference letters sent. If you have a professor or teacher or someone, a guidance counselor, who knows about a particular situation that you've gone through, and that they can articulate it along with you to say that the grades may not have been stellar in that particular year or that particular semester because XYZ has occurred. However, they've really built it back up, or something to that effect. It really is useful to know.
heard of instances where the admitted students are able to negotiate their scholarships with some, private universities. How does should everyone who is admitted try, or is there, if you think that you have you're a good student, you should then try, or what is the criteria? Like, how do you try to?
I think it really depends on the institution. If you're talking about negotiating a merit scholarship, asking for more merit money, at Olin we wouldn't have any more to give you because we have a budget and we give it all. Everybody gets the same, but that's not true at every place. So I think you just have to put it out there and ask. In my experience, I don't know if it would necessarily make any difference, but and that's not different, because if you're negotiating need-based financial aid, then you would need to provide additional sort of information and documentation. And also if you're negotiating anything, maybe you say, oh, I got this much money from this place, or since junior year these grades have gone up, or whatever else you present. But it's very, very specific to the individual circumstances, I think.
If I may add something to that, so we don't use the word negotiate, and we're not going to put it in big print, but you can actually appeal to the financial aid packages. But we would never negotiate, but we will take appeals. What is not typically appealed is an academic scholarship. Those are different. But if you feel that your financial aid package is not what you need in order for your son or daughter to go to school, then I do recommend that you talk to the financial aid office, or you send something in writing explaining the situations for which you would not be able to cover the amount of the family contribution, and that would be considered an appeal. And appeals typically, and everyone is different, okay, but typically in appeals, if there's a circumstance that is not clear on the financial aid forms, then we have to amend that financial aid package. And there are situations like that.
On that note, when it comes to special circumstances, and I run into this a handful of times a year, sometimes things happen between when you file the FAFSA or when you consider financial aid and then the time when it comes to make the decision. So somebody loses their job, death in the family, something like that. These things do happen. In that case, that's definitely worth a conversation to the financial aid office of being like, look, I know it says X amount on the FAFSA or what there, but this is severely changed. Sometimes it changes, sometimes it doesn't, but that's something that I always say, that if there's like a significant change that comes to that, we're not heartless. We're going to at least hear you out and try to figure out what the next steps is for that.
And kind of keeping with the theme that things vary by school, at our institution we do increase merit scholarship money based on updates. So let's say you take the SAT or ACT again and your scores improved, we will take that into consideration to up your merit scholarship money as well. Cumulative GPA, if that goes up with your final transcript, we gladly give you the money to increase your GPA or your merit scholarship money. Same thing with our FIRST or cyber scholarships. If you participate in those programs after applying, we will retroactively apply those scholarships.
What advantage does obtaining an associate's degree in high school give you versus having dual credit hours? Like, I go to high school that you can take college classes while taking high school classes, and what advantage does obtaining an associate's degree in high school give you versus having dual credit hours?
So I'm in Texas again, and we have a lot of students that do both the associate's degree, the dual credit in high school. From the standpoint of your university, it's going to be very university specific. It's also going to be very degree specific. In our degree programs in the College of Engineering, there's very little in the associate's degree that's going to save you any time in a four-year degree. If you're taking your calculus and you're taking all your English requirements and you're getting all of your, you're getting physics that you can use, you're getting those sort of things in dual credit, they're more useful to you because those all apply directly to your engineering programs. However, like I said, it's very degree specific. There are other programs at our university outside engineering who may take everything from associate's degree and give you credit towards that program. So it's really going to be up to you to look at the various universities that you're considering and the particular programs, because you're going to see a wide variation in how those credits are useful to you or not. There is a thing, this is a Texas thing, you guys, sorry, that if you do community college classes towards an associate but you don't complete, and then you go on to four-year university, you can actually now have the four-year university send your classes back to your community college to complete the associate's degree from the community college while you're completing your bachelor's degree. So the community college likes that because they get credit, see, even though you've transferred out to the four-year. So it's a weird thing in Texas. It has a funding thing. But hopefully that was a little helpful.
Yeah, the only thing I would add on that is, like, we have articulation agreements with community colleges around our area. And so if you line up your associates in that articulation agreement, then I think that gives you the advantage. Otherwise, I lean much more towards the dual credit, helping you out more than getting the associate's degree, unless you would follow. I think that just builds on what you just heard there. By doing it that way, you can get the credit. You can get credits, but if you follow the prescribed articulation agreement, then you can get the associates, and you're ready to do that next 2 years in the engineering program.
Yeah, just kind of building off of that, we get a lot of students that come in with associate's degrees already. They're doing the dual enrollment as well. I would recommend, if you know where you want to go, or if you know the direction you're trying to go, let the colleges know in advance, your admissions counselor know in advance. They can typically help you kind of navigate which classes to take. I would hate for you to waste a lot of that time. The dual enrollment associate degree path tends to be very helpful when you know where you're going and how you want to go about it. Because there are a lot of credits that get wasted in that path of just getting an associate. So definitely have those conversations. If we can send you the degree plan, we can. We'd like to do that up front so that you don't blindly select classes.
So I believe someone mentioned that admissions officers and counselors like it when we reach out to them. So how do we kind of go about that? Like college fairs, send an email? Like what would you recommend or prefer?
I'll just start. College fairs, all that. The many times you touch me, I'll make sure that I remember your face. But also when you come in and do the personal tours, like a lot of students will come to open houses, and you may be like one of 20. But if you come on a personal tour with your parents and kind of get to know me as I get to know you, then you'll definitely be memorable in my eyes, and we'll be on a first name basis after that.
I will say so my university and some of the local universities in North Texas actually have admissions counselors in the high schools. That's true in a lot of different places. If there's an admissions counselor who comes to your high school once a week, go talk to them, definitely. And I know at the local high schools around our area, there are admissions counselors from multiple universities that are at those high schools every week. So take advantage of that opportunity.
I would definitely suggest checking out the websites for the schools that you're interested in, because some of them, Rice is not one of them, but some of them will break out who your regional rep is. So if there's a representative from the admission office who is responsible for your state or the general area that you live in, then you can reach out to them directly, whether it's phone or email. So check out the websites to see if there's someone in particular you can be reaching out to.
So I want to add a little bit on your question because I think it's really important. I think it's key for students to have excellent social skills and not be afraid of adults. Not only are we going to help you in terms of admissions, but when you get to college, do not be afraid of your professors. Your professors are key. They are the connection to your future. I've noticed in my years at Syracuse that it is the professors, also career services, who does an incredible job, but it's the professors that are really the bridge, the connection for students to have a successful future. So don't be afraid of adults. Reach out to us all the time. Most of us don't bite, right? We're really good people. But always do it with respect. One of the things that I get a little bit twisted about is when students refer to me in an email as hey, or hey Silva. I'm not a soldier, I'm not a Silva, my name is Amparo. And you could call me by my first name, I don't have any issues with that, but always, making sure that you're being respectful. Don't ever cross that line, there's a line. And, but don't be afraid. We are going to be the bridge to everything you do. Admissions people are the doorkeepers. And then your professors are the bridge builders to your careers. So don't be afraid of adults, it's important.
One little thing to add, one other person who can make a huge difference for you is your academic advisors at the university. We've talked a little bit about things like whether dual credit should, which classes to take or associates. The people who can typically answer those questions are the academic advisors for the programs you're interested in. Depending on your university, there may have one academic advising unit. They could have advisors for freshmen and different ones for older student. You could have advisors in the department. Our college, actually, most of our advisors are actually faculty members who serve as academic advisors as part of their job. You're going to get a lot of really specific, useful advice from academic advisors. And they do know things about programs that your admissions folks won't necessarily know. Your admissions folks know what it takes to get you in, but they maybe aren't the people who can say, should I take, this class versus that class, contributing towards an aerospace engineering degree. So the academic advisor is the other person who's really, really useful with your faculty and your admissions folks.
Two things I would say in building on both of this conversation. You were asking about different places and how to reach out to us. Another thing is I am the representative for Texas. So I visit schools. If you want me to come to your school and I haven't been to your school yet, by all means, email me. I'll be happy to come out here. I'm in Texas about half of the year I spend out here, all right? So I've been out here last week, this week, next week, the following week. Let me know. I'll be happy to meet with you at your school. I just did some school visits up to today, as a matter of fact. So we do make ourselves available anytime. We're happy to come to your school. But when we come to your school, don't forget for you guys to show up. There's nothing worse than going to have a school visit that's been arranged and then no students show up. So by all means, let's work hand in hand with one another. I'm here to help you as well. And to your statement in regard to academic advisors at our university, everyone has an academic advisor. You meet with your academic advisor to register for every semester, whether you're a freshman or a senior. Okay, you can't register for the next semester without going through that academic advisor, which helps you keep on track so you don't end up taking courses that you didn't need, or you're ready to submit your paperwork for graduation to only find out then, oh, I was supposed to take 2 other courses. So as the woman mentioned, they really work hand in hand with you. All of us work as a team, all right? So don't lose sight of that. These are tools in your toolbox. Use them.
How much do certifications kind of help a way to get you into colleges and everything? Do they help a lot more, or is it just something that's kind of cool to have? Computer science type degrees. So.
That's my home department. Since I'm the computer science person.
Fine.
That's going to vary somewhat by school. Depending on the kind of programs you're looking at. Some schools will accept certifications as credit. Some schools treat them basically like extracurricular activities and look to see, oh, hey, they're very interested, they've also pursued this. So it's going to be very dependent on the programs you're interested in.
So I can tell you at Kettering, we don't accept certifications as far as college credit goes. But we do have a very extensive co-op program that kicks off freshman year. And our students that come in with those certs, the employers that we partner with really like to see that kind of experience. It just shows that you've been resilient in that particular pursuit. And if it fits together with what they're doing professionally, that works really well for our students in the co-op program.
Excellent. Any other comments on that? Excellent. Well, we are right on time. So thank you all for joining us. Let's give a big round of applause for our panelists. Thank you. And then as we exit the room this evening, some of our panelists may have the opportunity to answer individual questions as you're exiting, and you can visit them within the Innovation Fair tomorrow and Friday. I believe tomorrow's hours are 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then Friday's hours, I believe, are 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. They're posted outside of the Innovation Fair here on the third floor. So thank you again.